Hey, it's Theo and thank you for joining me. And today we will be looking at the best decks to climb to Legend. Now, a lot of things have changed with the mini set launch, and especially the two Imbue decks are very popular, especially the Hunter deck. And it is kind of warping the meta, even though if you look at the win rate, it really isn't that great, but maybe that's because like all the other decks are just trying to beat it as well, right? So it's still a solid deck, but not the best, as you can see here. It's not up here. Usually I try to do the best decks from best to worst. So yeah, it's not up there, but yeah, definitely meta warping that Hunter deck. And if you want to get those deck codes, they are always in the description of the video. Now let's start with what looks like to be the best deck. It's the Imbue Druid. It got a lot of upgrades with the mini set. And yeah, just has a very good matchup spread all around. So we got the Charged Chameleon, so now you can actually get back on board a little bit, which wasn't really possible before. We also have Murder Seal, which is a great card to yeah, just draw, and yeah, that was kind of a weakness drawing, so this helps a lot with it. We've got the Fyrakk as well, so you have some bursts, some board clears, just things that Druid didn't really have. So those cards are really helping this deck out. Now what you may notice though, it's that the deck doesn't have a Pedal Picker. Now my original list had it, but looking at the stats, I put in photosynthesis because yeah, this deck has a few more minions than the old decks had, and yeah, we need some more spells. And the stats on this card were just better, so that's why I put it in here instead of the pedal picker. So yeah, overall, this is a really good deck. You can't really go wrong with it. And then we have the Aggro Paladin. This might be a deck you don't really see that much on ladder, but yeah, the stats on it are really good, and it might just be the best counter to the Hunter deck, because it just wins really fast, and it really can utilize any board advantages it has with the buffs in this deck. We've got the Crusader aura, especially this one is insane, right? When you have board, it wins so fast. We got the Flash Sale, and we have the Busybot as well, because there's a lot of one-attack minions in this deck. Also, it's running the Ursula Shalaviso combo for the late game. It's actually not that big of a deal in this deck. You usually just win through board with the aggro part of the deck, but hey, for late game matchups, you know, it's pretty good. And as a third deck, we have another deck that's just been doing really well overall, and yeah, it just kind of goes unnoticed, but yeah, it just doesn't look maybe that amazing, but it just consistently just wins games because it just can deal so much damage, and it can really win on board fast. So again, another deck that is just great against Hunter because it just wins way before Hunter can do their broken stuff. And this deck is just really good at getting bored with the one drops, the reborn stuff. Like, it's really annoying, right? When there's a Buccaneer on board with some of these reborn, you just can't really deal with the board. And then this deck has a lot of damage as well. We got the Foam Render, Horizon's Edge, I mean, Eliza, Ghoul's Knight, Corpse and Call, just so much damage from hand. And then we have also one of the best cards against Hunter, actually, which is the Observer Mysteries, because, yeah, a lot of secrets deal really well with the King Plush, right? You got the runes, we've got the Freezing Trap. So generally, if you play Observer Mysteries, it can be really hard for the Hunter actually to play like a plush into it. And you might get yourself another turn, and then with all that damage, you can beat the Hunter with it. But also in other matchups, this is just great. It was great before the patch as well, so just a great deck overall to climb with. And then as the fourth deck we have is the Fyrakk Rogue. And yeah, it says Fyrakk Rogue. It's really just Ashmane Rogue, but minus the Ashmane plus the Fyrakk. Because yeah, Ashmane just isn't that great when you're facing Imbue decks. Rogue doesn't imbue, so getting like Imbue cards against Hunters and Druids, which are very common, right? It's pretty bad. So right now, I think Ashmane is pretty bad in the meta. But yeah, if the meta changes, right, if there's a lot less Imbue, then suddenly Ashmane might become better again than Fyrakk. But right now, with this meta, yeah, Fyrakk is king. But like I said, it's pretty much the same as before this deck. Just, yeah, it's got the Harbinger early on, which can win pretty much any matchup if you get it early. Got like some disruption again, also the Observer of Mysteries here, and just the good rogue stuff overall. And then as the fifth deck I got here is the Drunk Paladin. Yeah, the best deck from before the patch, and I'm actually surprised that it fell down a couple of spots. But I feel like it's one of those decks that if the meta changes a bit, moves maybe away from the Hunter, then this can suddenly be tier 1 again. It's just a really strong deck. But right now, the build I got here is playing a few early minions with Righteous Protector and double Vicious Slither Spear. Because, yeah, Hunter is such a big deal, right? So you want to win fast, and for that you need the 1-drops. So we're not running the Libram draw card. But hey, again, if the meta changes and there's less Hunter, you might just go back to that build again. But for now, this seems the build to go with. And then we have the Blooddeath Knight. Yeah, this deck is pretty much the same as before the patch. Although I feel like Fyrakk might be really good in this list, but yeah, I didn't find any stats on list playing it, so I might be trying that out myself on stream, try see how Fyrakk can work in this deck. But besides that, yeah, just the same as before. I got some Scarab keychains now. I think those are nice to have in the current mana, but other than that, just the same, right? Just try and survive with all these board clears this deck has, and then you win in the late game with Kill Jaden if needed. But in this meta, it's not really that important, Kill Jaden. I feel like most decks don't have a lot of value, so you rarely need it, but this deck has very little value, so I feel like you do need to have it, but it's not as important as it was in like the last meta. And then we get to the Imbue Hunter, and as I mentioned before, yeah, it's really not that great anymore. Like, it can do some broken things, but the whole meta is warping around it, and yeah, pretty much the decks that counter this get played a lot, and decks that are bad against this just don't get played. But it's still a good deck, right? You can still definitely climb with it, just the meta is very hostile to it. So I expect people to try and counter this in various different ways on a ladder. And this build I got here is running all you can eat. To me, it seemed a bit weird at first, but it does kind of make sense, right? Because you only have a few tribal cards in this deck. And if you've already drawn the plush with the exotic Houndmaster, you basically always draw the Glacier Shard with it, the Sing-Along Body, and the Tangling Dragonkin. And yeah, getting the Dragonkin is pretty important, right? You kind of need that to do the OTK. Just one plush is a little bit too slow for this deck, so you really want to have that. So that's why it's in here, and it seems to be performing really well, so this is the list to go with right now. And then we have the Deckless Warlock, and yeah, this is just really Wheel Warlock without the wheel. So just like Blood Death Knight kinda, it's all about removal, survival, and then kill Jaden at the end. If this deck, yeah, doesn't have kill Jaden, it doesn't really win. But it has a lot of ways to survive, right? Just like Blood Death Knight, a lot of healing, removal, draw, all that what you want. And then just with the kill Jaden at the end, we're also running Brewmaster, so you can use that to copy the Ceaseless, right? And then bounce that and just keep clearing the board over and over. Or you can use it against the Hunters with the red, so you can just red like up to 4 times. Might be a bit difficult with mana, but yeah, you could red up to 4 times with this list, so very good against Hunter as well. And then we have the Warrior deck, Hydration Warrior, and yeah, this deck did really well for me in on ladder. I went, I think, like 11-2 with it to top 100, so definitely a solid deck. And if you like playing some Control Warrior like I do, this might just be a fun deck for you. And yeah, what this deck wants to do, right? Just survive, as you can probably expect from a control deck, and then you have a lot of odds to help you get there. Great way is, of course, get the Chemical Spill into Tortola. Yeah, this card is really hard to kill for a lot of decks, so getting this down early is amazing. And then you can get it back twice for Hydration Station. We also got the formerly known as Ankyliax Ziliax card, which is still great to res. And we're also running Fyrakk, the new card. This is the one new card this deck has, and yeah, it's just another board clear or some burst. Something this deck is lacking. And for the very late game matchups, we got a Marin. Although, yeah, if there's more decks that are running Kill Jaden, it might be better to run Kill Jaden at some point. But right now, I feel like Marin is the card of choice. And then we have the Cliff-Dive Hunter, which fell down a couple of spots compared to before the meta. But it's still a good deck. And yeah, this list, though, is a little bit less greedy than before the patch, because the meta is so much faster, right? Yeah, you want to cut a little bit of greed, so the 7-drop with the Fellhound is no longer here. We just have the 5-drop, because that basically makes Cliff Dive better, right? You don't want to find the 7-drop of the Cliff Dive if you haven't already played the Ember and the Fell Hunter. So that's why you're just more likely to be getting the Inquisitor, the Mextherodon, and just win the game fast, which is pretty important in this meta. And then we have a Dark Gift Warlock, which is a very aggressive list. And you can really get ahead on board quickly with this list, because we have the Cinder Sword, the new card that can cheat out your Dread Corsairs for 0. Of course, we have the Harbinger as well, because we're playing Rogue. And yeah, those cards let you get a ton of stats early on board. And yeah, does really well into a lot of matchups. We're even running one Menagerie Jug, because we got a lot of tribes, right? We got a Demon here, we got Elemental, we got a Beast, and we have like the Harbinger, which often also gets you a few tribes. Yeah, it's just a very aggressive list. And yeah, it doesn't have a lot of gas, right? You see is not a whole lot of late game. So yeah, you definitely want to be winning fast with this list, and yeah, that kind of list does well into a Hunter, because yeah, they just struggle with any sort of early game, especially a board like the Harbinger boards, and also like I said before, right, the Observer of Mysteries is just great into Hunter. This just buys you turn again, and yeah, usually the Hunter won't survive that extra turn that they need. And then we have the Starship Death Knight again, and yeah, this list, it's not running any new cards. The one thing it's doing is, yeah, it's not running that much late game, because, yeah, again, the meta is a lot faster, so, yeah, running too much late game is not really needed. What it is running now is those reds instead of some late game cards, because, yep, Hunter is very common, so you kind of need reds if you're playing a slower list, and, yeah, that's why they're in here, instead of, like, Ziliax, Kill Jaden, or Ceaseless. And besides that, it just works the same as before, right? You got a bunch of board clears in this list, like Pyro, Poison Breath, and the Corpse Explosion, even Amelia and the Suffocate, and then we just want to build the big Starship, right, and then go Exodar, and then depending on the matchup, you can go for armor, 1-drops, and sometimes even have lethal with the damage. And then we're getting to the last 3 decks, and as always, I try to include a deck for every class, but yeah, these last 3 are not that great, especially not the last 2. Like this Zarimi Priest list, it's still fine. Though somehow it's like the first time it feels like that the Zarimi Priest isn't a tier 1 deck. But yeah, right now it's not that great. I think it's just, yeah, again, right? Hunter is just faster. And if one OTK deck is just faster than the other, then the slower OTK deck is gonna have a really bad time. And that's what happened to Zarimi Priest. But again, this feels like if the meta shifts, this deck might just get a lot better again. But right now in the Hunter-dominated meta, it's not that great, but yeah, just like before, that's kind of the same list, right? The mini set did nothing for Priest, so it did nothing for this deck. You still want to set up the OTK on basically turn 8, where you go Narlax, Caesara, Briar Spot, and Zarimi, and yep, that's pretty much the deck. And like I said, the last 2 decks, yeah, I couldn't really find good decks for Mage or the Shaman. Like this one had a decent win rate, but it was a really, really low sample size. You can also maybe play like Protoss Mage, the same list as before the patch. But I wanted to like include a bit more unique deck, because I think everybody knows the Protoss lists by now. But yeah, again, this is very low sample size, so kind of play it at your own risk. But I did want to include a Mage deck, and that's this Raylla Imbue Mage. So yeah, we got the Raylla to get some Paladin cards, and then you can maybe get on board early, right, with Raylla and some of these 1-mana spells. It's got some aggressive cards again, right? The Slither Spirit Busy Bot, just try and get it on board fast to try and beat those hunters especially quickly. And then, yeah, we just got the Imbue stuff here in the late game as well with Icena, Milorn, try and win those slower matchups. And then here's the last Shaman deck, and just like with Mage, yeah, this one doesn't really have a big sample size, but it either was this deck, or it was like sub 40% Nebula Shaman or Fyrakk Shaman with Shadow Block deck. So yeah, I chose to go with this one. I can't really recommend those sub 40% list, but this one seemed like it might have some potential. Maybe if more people play it, it turns out to be bad, but the stats looked somewhat promising with the very low sample size again it had, so that's why I wanted to put it here. And it's running a few new cards, right? It's running the Embers card Whelp, and it's running Fyrakk, so got a few new cards. And then, yeah, other than that, it's the same Asteroid as before, where you just want to play the Behemoth, shuffle some Asteroids, and then kill the opponent through, yeah, throwing basically those Asteroids at the opponent's face. And then sometimes you can also play like Shadow Block Incendious to have board clears. And you just want to try and kill the opponent through a consistent damage from hand. And those are all the decks I got for you. As I said before, all the codes are in the description. So go there if you want to copy these decks. And if you have any other decks that were successful for you, please post them in the comments. Let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if the video was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time.